Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Let's play some Raiden 4 for the Xbox 360. Phenomenal game.
All right, let's do it. Xbox 360, Raiden 4. Plasma mode. I really like the plasma weapons that lock on to the enemies. Pretty awesome. One of the defining characteristics of Raiden. I first played Raiden, the original one, back on the PS1. I have the long box version that I got at FuncoLand before it was GameStop back in the late 90s. Got it for a good price, complete in the box. I know it's collectible now. Glad to have mine in my collection without having to pay an arm and a leg, because I did get it back in the day. Pretty cool. And gameplay with Raiden 4 is similar. Just has better graphics, obviously, and it's obviously 2D gameplay, which I really like a lot, but the visuals are really nice. It has sort of a 3D look to it, or at least some, get some depth there to the visuals. Great looking game. It got me thinking about, oops, sorry about that guys. It got me to thinking about 2D games for the Xbox. And what retro style games are there for the Xbox 360? For the 360 in particular, not just the original Xbox, for the 360. I've got some, like I've got the Sega Genesis collection, I've got the Namco collection, I've got Death Smiles, which is a 2D side-scrolling shooter, of course with all kinds of modern crazy graphics and gameplay elements, but it is kind of an old school game in the sense that it is a side-scrolling 2D shooter. And I've got a few others that are retro style, Tetris and things like that. But I mean, do you guys know of any 2D shooters? I've got like Raiden, some other versions of Raiden, like Raiden Aces Fighters or something like that. And I've got Raiden 3 for, is that the 360 or was that a different console? Anyway, I would love to hear from you guys if you know some old school, because I love to play my 360 and I'm a big fan of 2D games, and if I could mix the two together, that's always fun. Now Raiden is obviously a vertical scrolling shooter, and it's definitely one of the bigger names. There have been it was in the arcades, and there's a number of different games in the series. Like I've got Raiden Trad on the Genesis, which is really a great game. Excellent shooter for the Genesis. One of my favorite shooters for the Genesis, including games like Truxton, another great vertical shooter. So, Raiden definitely has some history and some, it's a franchise. And like I said, I first remember playing it on the PS1 back in the day when FuncoLand and then GameStop later on, such fun places to shop, because they would keep retro games around. And I bought a ton, during the PlayStation and Nintendo 64 era, and beyond. I bought a ton of NES, Genesis, and Super Nintendo games when they were considered not worth very, they were considered just old hat, stuff that people didn't want. And you could get boxed, complete, I remember getting a bunch of boxed, complete Super Nintendo RPGs for $9.99, $7.99 each. I died way too soon, guys. Sorry about that. I should at least beat the first 2 or 3 levels without losing all my lives, but it is harder to play a video game when you're talking. Now I could record the footage and then come back and talk over, but I kind of like playing as I talk. There's kind of a dynamic feel to it, even though I don't tend to do as well. But anyway, I'm just having fun. Video games are all about fun, right? Even though tends to be some drama here and there in the community, but tonight, it's a Friday night, and I'm really sorry my wife is feeling bad, but I'm glad she's asleep. Hopefully tomorrow she'll feel better. So I'm just hanging out by myself in my game room and having a good time. But yeah, I have played a couple of different Raidens in the arcade, like at Free Play Arcade, and I played some back in the day as well. And it's really the first bullet hell game I remember playing, because Gradius and R-Type, some of those, early evolutionary, not real early, we're talking Defender and games like that, but Gradius and Raiden, or in R-Type rather, were two of the shooters, space shooters that made strides toward what we have today with scrolling shooters. And those weren't really bullet hell because the screen didn't get just so insanely full of bullets like this game does. So I wonder if Raiden, it's certainly an early bullet hell game, but I wonder if it was the first. Anyway, I'm playing the 4th iteration in the series, Raiden 4 obviously, and it is awesome. I'm playing the 360 mode. It's got a couple of extra levels. And the arcade version is on here too. But Raiden, pretty much sticks to a tried and true formula. The original Raiden that I have ported to my PS1, and Raiden tried on the Genesis, and here Raiden 4, and the other Raiden games I've played. They're pretty much gameplay similar. Now, I go back a long way with vertical scrolling shooters, going all the way back to the early 80s with the awesome River Raid on the Atari 2600. Few games I enjoy more than flying up the River of No Return and the 2600 on River Raid by Activision. Phenomenal game, holds up extremely well, have to slow down to get fuel, and it is very challenging but not particularly frustrating because it is fair for the most part. And that's the first vertical shooter I played on home consoles, and I believe it was the first one for home consoles. And then I remember Xevious, very early vertical shooter in the arcades. And that was the first vertical shooter where you could shoot airborne and ground-based targets. So in one game, you could shoot both airborne and ground-based. And that was obviously a big influence on many games moving forward, including the Raiden series. Xevious was a phenomenal game when it came out, and it had some nice ports on the NES, the 7800, some other consoles. No reason to die there, Brett. What are you doing? Too busy blabbing about history, which is kind of what I do. Speaking of blabbing of history, I've got some conventions coming up where I'll be doing just that. Video Game Summit, July 17th, outside of Chicago. And then Classic Game Fest in Austin, Texas, the week after that. Going to be a lot of fun. I know a lot of my gamer friends are going to be at what's it called? It's in South Carolina, Southeast Game Exchange or something like that. That's going to be July 10th and 11th, I believe. I'm not scheduled to go there, but hey, that's a month away. Anything could happen. I'm out of bombs, which is not good. Let's keep continuing, guys. It's a Friday night, and I'm going to be up late. I'm playing some games. Probably going to work later. I've been doing the final edit stages on a book I'm working on that's a sequel to one of my earlier books. And I've got a great team of writers writing some long-form essays for some incredible games. Now, if you've read my books, you probably know I'm hinting around here because my publisher doesn't want me to come out and just say exactly what book I'm working on, but it is a sequel to one of my earlier books, and it has long-form essays in it, so you can do the math there. Anyway, hopefully I can announce the book soon. As soon as I have the cover and everything, in a few months I'll be able to give you guys more information. But just know that I'm busy making more books, filming more videos. I've got a Hidden Gems video on the ColecoVision that I'm working on, my favorite retro console. I tell you what, the 360 is one of my favorite modern consoles. I know people I kind of consider Dreamcast to the present modern. Now, a lot of people consider Xbox and PlayStation 2 back retro, but to me, the PlayStation 2 and original Xbox still seem pretty modern in some ways. Because some of those games still look fantastic. And the gameplay is so, it's not retro. Not in my eyes, anyway. Even though I did a favorite 50 retro games of all time, I included the PS2 and Xbox just because so many people do. And it gave me an excuse to talk about Maximo, my favorite all-time modern-ish game on the PS2. Yeah, it's a great looking game, Raiden 4. Great looking enemy ships, and I love 2D gaming, and I'm really wanting. I'm sure there are more retro styled 2D games on the 360 than I have in my collection. I'd love to hear more. I know the Dreamcast has a lot of great 2D shooters on it, but a lot of those are foreign only, weren't released in the U.S. I've got a friend named Darren who has an amazing Dreamcast collection with all these killer shooters that were never released in the U.S. Hope you guys are having a good weekend. Yes, I'm going to continue. I should certainly make it further than this without so many deaths, but hey, there are a lot of bullets on the screen, and I'm trying to walk and chew gum at the same time. I should have used a bomb there, I had plenty.
Wow, sorry about that abrupt ending to this video, but my camera stopped working right then. I was getting ready to wrap up pretty soon. You get the idea. Raiden 4 for the Xbox 360 is a phenomenal game. Let me know in the comments which game in the Raiden series is your favorite. I'd also like to hear from you when you discovered this series. Have you been playing it a long time, or just more recently? All right, guys, thank you so much for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Let me know if you want to see more gameplay videos. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you later. If you're a fan of my work, you might want to consider supporting me on Patreon. For just a low fee each month, you get a lot of extra content. Another way to support the channel and my writing career is to buy books direct from me, including the 100 Greatest Console Video Games, the Classic Home Video Game Series. It's like an encyclopedia set. And this massive bad boy, the NES Omnibus Volume 1 A through L. I will put links in the description of this video where you can buy books direct from me and where you can support me on Patreon. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.